never thought I'd be sharing this story with the world, but here I am, sitting in my quiet little kitchen, the one with the chipped blue tiles and the window that overlooks the overgrown garden. My name is Eleanor, and I'm what you'd call a humble widow, a simple worker who's spent the last decade scrubbing floors and mending clothes for folks who barely notice me. Life hasn't been kind, but I've learned to find peace in the small things. The steam rising from a cup of cheap tea, the sound of rain on the roof, or the way the sun filters through the leaves on a rare, clear day. If you're listening to this, thank you for taking the time to hear my story. It might just remind you that true wealth isn't in gold or grand houses, but in the heart. Let me take you back to where it all began. It was about 5 years ago, in the fall of 2020, when the leaves were turning that fiery red and gold, but the air carried a chill that whispered of harder times ahead. My husband, Tom, had passed away suddenly from a heart attack just 2 years prior. We weren't rich, far from it. Tom worked as a mechanic, fixing cars for the locals in our small town of Willow Creek, and I took in laundry and cleaning jobs to help make ends meet. After he was gone, the world seemed to shrink around me. Bills piled up like autumn leaves, and I found myself alone in our modest cottage, the one with the creaky porch and the faded white paint peeling from years of neglect. That's when the real conflict started creeping in, slow and insidious, like fog rolling over the hills. Tom's family, my in-laws, had always looked down on us. His brother, Richard, was a successful lawyer in the city, married to Vivian, who came from old money. They lived in a sprawling mansion with manicured lawns and servants who polished the silver every day. To them, Tom and I were the poor relations, the ones they pitied at family gatherings but never truly welcomed. After Tom's death, their disdain turned sharper. They'd visit occasionally, not out of kindness, but to check if I was managing without dragging the family name through the mud. Vivian would wrinkle her nose at my simple home, commenting on the dust or the threadbare curtains, while Richard lectured me about getting a real job instead of scraping by. And it wasn't just them. The neighbors in Willow Creek weren't much better. Our town was divided, you see. The wealthy folks up on the hill with their gated communities, and us down in the valley where the houses huddled together like forgotten dreams. Mrs. Hargrove next door with her pristine flower beds and her husband's fancy car dealership would mock me behind my back. I'd overhear whispers at the market. Poor Eleanor, still wearing those rags. How does she even afford bread? They'd invite everyone to block parties, but conveniently forget my address. I was the struggling widow, the simple worker who faded into the background, invisible until they needed someone to feel superior to. I bore it all with quiet dignity. What else could I do? Anger wouldn't pay the rent, and pride doesn't fill an empty stomach. I'd wake at dawn, brew my coffee, and head out to clean houses or mend hems, my hands calloused but my spirit unbroken. But deep down, it hurt, like a thorn lodged in my chest, twisting a little more each day. I wondered if this was all life had left for me: endless toil, silent judgment, and nights alone with memories of better times. Before we dive deeper into what happened next, let me pause for a moment. If you're out there listening, maybe on your commute or curled up with a blanket, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Is it a bustling city or a quiet town like mine? Your stories make sharing mine all the more meaningful. Now, the inciting incident, that unexpected spark that set everything in motion, came on a night I'll never forget. It was late November, and a storm had rolled in from the mountains, the kind that howls like a wounded animal and lashes rain against the windows. Thunder rumbled like distant artillery, and lightning cracked the sky open, illuminating the world in stark, fleeting bursts. I was home alone, as always, sitting by the flickering light of a single lamp, darning a sock with threadbare yarn. The wind rattled the shutters, and I felt a draft sneaking through the cracks in the walls. My pantry was nearly bare, just a loaf of stale bread, some canned soup, and a few potatoes sprouting eyes in the dark. That's when I heard it. A faint knocking at the door, almost swallowed by the storm's fury. At first I thought it was a branch scraping against the wood, but it came again, insistent. Who could be out in this weather? I hesitated, my heart pounding a little faster. Willow Creek wasn't dangerous, but a widow alone learns caution. Peering through the peephole, I saw a figure slumped against the porch railing. A man, drenched to the bone, his coat clinging to him like a second skin. He looked exhausted, his face pale under the porch light, with rain streaming down his cheeks. I opened the door just a crack. "Can I help you?" I called over the wind. He lifted his head, eyes weary but kind. "Please, ma'am, my car broke down a mile back. I've been walking. Could I use your phone, or just shelter for a bit?" He was a stranger, middle-aged, with salt and pepper hair matted by the rain, and clothes that, even soaked, looked finer than anything I owned. But there was something vulnerable about him. No arrogance, just quiet desperation. My mind raced. I had so little to offer. My phone was an old landline, spotty in storms, and my food was meager. Yet how could I turn him away? Tom always said, "Kindness costs nothing but reaps everything." So I swung the door wide. "Come in before you catch your death." He stepped inside, dripping water onto my worn rug, murmuring thanks. I fetched a towel, my best one, threadbare but clean, and led him to the kitchen table. As the storm raged outside, I heated up the last of my soup and sliced the bread, sharing what little I had. He ate gratefully, not complaining about the simplicity. We talked as the thunder rolled. He said his name was Mr. Harlan, a traveler passing through on business. He didn't elaborate, and I didn't pry. Instead, I shared bits of my life, the loss of Tom, the daily grind. He listened, really listened, his eyes softening with empathy. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving the world washed clean, the air crisp with the scent of wet earth and pine. Mr. Harlan's car was towed, and he left with a handshake and a promise, "You've shown me true hospitality, Eleanor. One day, I'll repay it." I waved him off, thinking nothing of it, just a small act of kindness in a big, indifferent world. Little did I know, that night had planted the seed for a reversal I could never have imagined. The months that followed were much the same. Scrubbing, mending, enduring the snide remarks. Christmas came and went. I spent it alone with a candle and memories, while my in-laws hosted lavish parties I wasn't invited to. But then, in the spring of 2021, something shifted. Invitations arrived for a grand family reunion at Richard and Vivian's estate. It was to celebrate their 30th anniversary, a black tie affair with the town's elite. Why include me? Perhaps out of obligation, or maybe to parade their success against my humility. I almost declined, but curiosity and a quiet hope for connection drew me in. The estate was a vision of opulence. Manicured gardens blooming with roses, a fountain tinkling like crystal, and chandeliers sparkling in the grand hall. Guests milled about in designer gowns and tuxedos, sipping champagne under the warm glow of string lights. The air smelled of fresh-cut flowers and expensive perfumes, a far cry from my cottage's musty familiarity. I arrived in my best dress, a simple navy frock I'd mended myself, feeling like a sparrow among peacocks. Richard greeted me with a patronizing smile. "Eleanor, you made it. How quaint." Vivian air-kissed my cheeks, her diamonds glinting. "Do try the caviar, dear, it's imported." The neighbors were there too, Mrs. Hargrove and her crowd, whispering as I passed. "Look at her shoes," one snickered. "Hand-me-downs, I bet." I smiled through it, clutching my glass of water, my cheeks burning with quiet shame. As the evening wore on, tension built like storm clouds gathering. Dinner was served in the opulent dining room with crystal glasses and silverware that gleamed under candlelight. Speeches began, Richard toasting their success, guests applauding. Then Vivian stood, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "And let's not forget dear Eleanor, our late brother's widow. She's, persevering, aren't you, dear, in her little way?" The room tittered. Richard joined in. "Yes, Eleanor, tell us. How's the cleaning business? Still on your knees, scrubbing? Perhaps we could hire you for the after-party cleanup." Laughter erupted, sharp and cruel like knives in the air. My heart hammered, tears pricking my eyes. I opened my mouth to respond, but words failed me. The humiliation was suffocating, the room spinning in a haze of silk and scorn. That's when the turning point hit, like lightning from a clear sky. A voice cut through the din, calm and authoritative. "Enough." Heads turned as a man stood from the far end of the table. It was Mr. Harlan, but transformed, dressed in an impeccable suit, his presence commanding the room. I hadn't noticed him earlier. He'd blended in among the guests. "Richard, Vivian, you speak of perseverance, but you mock the very essence of it." The room fell silent, forks clinking awkwardly. Mr. Harlan, whose full name I later learned was Harlan Worthington, CEO of one of the largest tech firms in the state, continued. "Last fall, in the midst of a brutal storm, this woman, Eleanor, opened her door to a stranger, me. My car had indeed broken down, but it was no accident. I was traveling incognito, testing the waters of human kindness in these parts, seeking genuine souls amid the facade of wealth." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Vivian's face paled, her hand fluttering to her necklace. Richard stammered, "Harlan? Worthington? But we invited you as a potential investor." "Indeed," Harlan replied, his eyes locking on mine with warmth. "And I've seen enough. Eleanor shared her last meal with me, offered shelter without question. She embodies true wealth, humility, kindness, sacrifice, while you, with your mansions and mockery, reveal poverty of spirit." The climax unfolded in that charged atmosphere, the air thick with anticipation and dread. Vivian tried to salvage it, "But surely, Harlan, this is a misunderstanding. Eleanor's family, we've always supported her." "Supported?" Harlan's voice rose, not in anger, but in righteous clarity. "By belittling her? By excluding her? No. Tonight the power flips." He turned to the guests, many of whom were business associates. "I've decided to invest, not in your ventures, Richard, but in Willow Creek's community. And Eleanor, she'll lead the foundation I'm establishing, a fund for widows and workers like her to provide aid, education, and homes." The room erupted in murmurs. Mrs. Hargrove choked on her wine, her face flushing red. Richard stood, sputtering protests, but Harlan waved him off. "Your arrogance has cost you. Consider this a lesson." Then to me, he extended a hand. "Eleanor, would you join me at the head of the table?" I rose, legs trembling, the weight of eyes upon me. As I walked, the whispers turned to applause, tentative at first, then swelling. Vivian's mask cracked. She excused herself, tears smearing her makeup. Richard slumped in his chair, exposed for the bully he was. In the resolution that followed, the night transformed. Guests approached me, offering apologies and admiration. Harland announced a generous grant, enough to renovate my cottage, fund my retirement, and start programs helping others in need. My in-laws? They slunk away, their empire of superiority crumbling. Over time, Richard's business suffered as word spread. Vivian's social circle shrank. They reached out once, begging forgiveness, but I responded with grace. Kindness isn't a transaction. Learn it for yourselves. The neighbors changed too. Mrs. Hargrove sent flowers, invitations followed. But I didn't gloat. Revenge isn't my way. Instead, I poured my energy into the foundation, helping widows find jobs, fathers feed their families, workers stand tall. Looking back, as the sun sets outside my window now, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I realize the moral woven through it all. True wealth isn't measured in bank accounts or big houses. It's in the quiet acts of kindness that echo forever. Humility lifts us higher than arrogance ever could. If my story touches even one heart, reminds you to look beyond the surface, then sharing it was worth it. Thank you again for listening. If this resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe for more tales of life and lessons, and share your own stories below. Who knows? Your kindness might just change someone's world. Good night from Willow Creek.